All right, so I want to go over how to find the surface area of a prism, but from a more a formula approach. So we've been taking and finding a prism like this, and I'm going to look at this one here on the left, and we've been doing this for a couple of days. And so we went from a very general approach where we take something like this um, prism, rectangular prism to be exact, because the bases are rectangles, and we tear it apart. And then when we tear it apart, we take a look at the individual faces, and we found the area of each one. This was 7 by 3, so this is 21, 21, 21, 21, and 9. And we added all 6 of those up. So it's very just like find the area of each face, all 6 faces added up. And then on Thursday, I kind of took a more general approach and said, well, what if? We said, we looked at this and we said, okay, what is area this going to be? And we took all of this space in between the bases. And we just found the area of all that space in between the bases as if it is just one big rectangle, which it is. So we got rid of those dividing lines. And so that approach then kind of generalized a little bit. Well, we had to figure out, okay, well, what's the length of this one? 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 Still to figure out what the length of this was. Well, this is still 7. We knew that. And so what we found is that if this is 3 and this is 3, this is 3, this is 3, and this one happens to all be the same thing, then that means that tells us what the side is. This is 3, 3, 3, and 3. And then I could add that. Well, there's 4 3s, so that's going to be 12. And so we found then that we could look at the perimeter of this base, and that would be the length here. I'm going to get rid of that highlighting too. There. And so the perimeter was the length of this rectangle, and then the height was still 7. I mean, that was still the same thing. And so it was more general because we could do 12 times 7. 12 times 7 is 84. So now we've 12 times 7 is 84. Try that again. 12 times 7 is 84. So now we get this thing here where you're only adding 3 things. And really, you're only adding 2 things because we just add this one twice. Okay. And so from that perspective, we can come up with a formula that works a little bit cleaner than just saying, okay, I'm going to find each one of these surfaces, and what if I miscount or forget a surface, right? So it's a little bit cleaner. Something more specific, and so let me move this here. So I'll move this over here. Okay, so there are a couple of things we had going on here. First of all, we had the bases. Those are 2 opposite faces. Okay. Now, any non-rectangle face would be the base. Now, it's hard up here because, well, I'm going to just take the top and the bottom for my bases. But if it's 2 opposite faces, I could do left and right. I could do front and back. But I'm not going to worry about that. Okay. In this case, though, it says any non-rectangle face would be the base. So here is a prism, and we have a triangle. It is a non-rectangle. And so that right there is my base, automatic. Okay, if I have something that's not a rectangle, it becomes my base, whether it's a triangle, a octagon, a trapezoid, something like that. Okay, so bases, 2 opposite faces have to be, if it's not a rectangle, that's got to be your base. But then in that process, when we figured this out right here, this became what we call the lateral face, the whole lateral surface area. Once I find that area, in that case it was 84, Once I find that area, you now have the lateral surface area. So really basically you're finding all of those the area of all of the whole side in one fell swoop, just all together. It's the area of all the rectangular faces between the bases. Okay, and so there's a process here. Well, we found, like I said, that the perimeter of that base ended up being that length. The perimeter of this ended up being the length over here. So we're going to use that in our formula. Okay, and then we've got two bases. So aside from that, we've got two bases. We find the area of one of those bases, double it. We've got the bases. Okay, so that's the approach we're going to take. It's a little bit more specific. We're going to take the area, find the lateral surface area, and we're going to add to that the area of the bases. So here's the formula. Surface area equals the lateral surface area plus the area of the bases. Cool. So we are going to take that and kind of bring that to a little bit simpler language here. The surface area, SA, is the lateral surface area. Well, what we just figured out on that other one is that means that we take the perimeter of the base. So this P is going to be perimeter of the base. And then we're going to multiply it by that height. So that height, H, is the height of the prism. What you're going to notice is the H number usually ends up, if we fill it in last, it ends up being the number we didn't do anything else with. Kind of this Lone Ranger number. And so then what we're going to do here is we're going to find the area of the base. So B, big uppercase B, is the area of the base. And then we're going to multiply that by 2. So that's what those letters mean. P for perimeter of the base, big B for area of the base. So basically what that means, I see what I did there. Okay, basically what that means then is that we have to find that base, and then we have to find the perimeter of it and the area of it. And then that's like, we have 3 unknowns in this problem. 1, 2, 3 unknowns in this problem, and that's 2 of the 3. So if you know how to find the area of a rectangle or a triangle, it's easy peasy, almost easy peasy. Okay. So here's the steps we're going to take. So number 1. So step 1, we are finding the perimeter and area of the base. And so at this point, this is our base right here, and it is a rectangle, and it is 8 by 2. Okay, so it's an 8 by 2 rectangle, so that means that it has sides of 8 and 2, 8 and 2. I say that because to find the perimeter of that base, we are going to add the sides, 8 plus 2 plus 8 plus 2. And I know there's a lot of ways you guys do that. I'm writing it all out because we're going to, these are notes, so I want you to be able to go back and see. And then we have to find the area of the base. Well, the area of the base with dimensions of 8 and 2 is simply going to be 8 times 2, and that is going to be 16, and that's centimeters squared. Now, the reason for this is because when we go back and we look at the surface area formula, the surface area is the perimeter of the base times the height. That's how we find that lateral surface area. The perimeter of the base tells us that length of the lateral surface, and then times the height. And then the base, well, there's 2 of them, right? So we find the area of 1, and we're just going to double that. So we're pretty close to being done here. That's the amazing thing. So number 2, we're going to plug in the numbers. And then we're going to have to obviously figure out what that H is. So SA equals the perimeter. Well, that's 10 times the height. Then I'm just going to leave that blank here. I'll show you where that goes. So plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 16. So we're doubling that base. So that's 32 already. I mean, that's something we could figure out already. So now it's just 10 times what? Well, we go back and find the one number we have not talked about yet. And that number that we have not talked about yet is this 10. And what that 10 amounts to is that 10 is the distance between the bases. How far apart are those bases? And so that 10 is what we are going to be, putting into that spot here. Now, there happens to be a 10 already there because that's not, see, now I even caught my mistake. This is 8 plus 2 is 10 plus 8 plus 2 is 10. That's 20. The perimeter is 20. Okay, so we have the perimeter is 20. The surface area is 20 times 10 of the lateral surface. So that's going to be 200. So that's 232 centimeters. Okay, and so just to review that one more time, the perimeter, which I had added wrong and now have corrected, was 20 centimeters. Times the height, which is 10, the distance between. So 20 times 10 is 200. Plus the area of the base doubled. So 2 times 16 is 32. So that's 232 centimeters squared. And that is the surface area. That is the area of all the surfaces. Once you get used to this concept, it's actually faster than trying to find the area of all 6 surfaces and then having to add them up. Okay, so once you get used to the concept, this is actually easier. All right, so let's try this with this next one. Now, what I noticed is different about this one is that when I'm looking at it, the base here is either 2 opposing rectangle sides, or, as very specific about this in the definition of the base, the non-rectangular side. Well, in this case, I have one of those non-rectangular sides. So I need to find the perimeter of that triangle and then the area of that triangle. Well, the perimeter of the triangle is going to be the distance around. So I've got 10 plus 16 plus 10. So I'm just looking at that distance around. So 26, 36. So it's going to be 36 inches. Okay. And so I'm just adding that all up. Okay. Now the area is a little bit harder and it's very important. You're doing these two dimensions. So when you have a triangle, the height is the base and the height of the triangle. Well, the base, little b, as opposed to big B, which is like the area of the big area of the base. The little b is just this line segment right here, times the height, which is the line segment that starts at that opposite vertex, comes down and forms that right angle. And then because it's a triangle, divide by 2. And so you got to make sure that when we're doing the triangles, it's always those right triangles, the right angles. And so I'm going to be doing 6 times 16 divided by 2 equals. Now here's the deal. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, so this is 8, okay? 6 times, and I divided by 2 before I multiplied it because it just made it easier. So it's going to be 48 inches squared. Now some of you are going to see as we go to plug it in. So plug in P and A. Okay, and so we're going to plug that in. And I'm going to write it so you can actually read it. So the surface area equals the perimeter. So perimeter is 36 times the height. Oh, that's that one we haven't talked about yet, so I'll get there. Okay, plus 2 times the area of the base, which is 48. Now, here's the deal. Why am I, in this case right here, dividing by 2 to just multiply by 2? And so a lot of you might start figuring out, wait a minute, when I'm doing the triangle, I don't necessarily have to divide by 2. I just bring that number down. But I did divide by 2 this time, so I will multiply by 2. I'll give a couple examples of that a little bit later. So then we've got that whole concept of the height. What's the number? So here's this here. This is the other base, the back side of it. So the distance between that back and that front is 8. So that is the number that's going to go there. 36 times 8 is a big number. Actually, no, it's not. It's 288. So I get 288 plus 2 times 48, which is 96. And I add that up and I get 384, let's include those units, inches squared. And so you can see here, as you get used to it, so that would have been 5 different surfaces that you're having to add and, try to keep track. Which one did I divide by 2?
I didn't catch that. Could you try again?
Siri wants to talk to me. Okay, so, all right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some other examples. I'll go a little bit quicker through these. Actually, so that you can kind of see that it's not always like super long and drawn out. Okay, so let's make these a little bigger. There we go. All right, so I'm going to shortcut a little bit. So I need to find perimeter. So here's my base. So 4 plus 10 plus 4 plus 10. And I would actually start kind of condensing that down a little bit too. 4 plus 10 is 14 twice. And so then that ends up being 28 feet. Area equals 4 times 10 equals 40. And so already now I have a big part of my formula. So surface area equals 28 times the height plus 2 times 40, 80. And so you can see some of it goes pretty quick. So the one thing that I have not done yet is that height, and that's right here. It's that distance between the two bases, which is right here. And so that's 10. So I'm going to put 10 there. So 28 times 10, well, I got that. That's 280. So 280 plus 80, that's going to be 360 feet squared. And I realized that one reason why this is a lot faster for me is because of those math facts, although I have seen some of you guys fly through this stuff way faster than me because you use really good math kind of tricks to do that. Okay, so that's 360. Okay. All right, so this next one, here's my base. So I'm going to start generalizing even more. Perimeter equals. So some of you said, 18 and 18 is 36 plus 12 and 12 is 24. So that's 50, that's 60 meters. So some of you are kind of generalizing that a little bit more. You doubled 18, doubled 12. Area equals 18 times 12. And I know a lot of my 12s I do not know. Actually, 9 times 12 is 108, so I just double that. Should be 218. 216. 18 times 12. Yep, 216. And that's meters squared. So I've got surface area equals perimeter. Oops. Let's just go ahead and put that perimeter in there. So perimeter, 60 times height. And I can start looking at that and finding that sooner. So that height is 4. Okay, and then plus area, 216 times 2. So that's, 216 times 2 is 432 plus 240. So 672. And obviously, I mean, I would be double checking some of that to make sure on Desmos, but yeah, 672. Okay, so 672 meters squared. Okay, so that's meters squared right there. And my pencil died, so lovely. Okay, so then that's I just want to do a couple of these here. So bring these down and make them bigger. I don't know where that goes. Right there. All right. All right. So the last ones here. So you notice that our bases are triangles and they're in the forefront here. So perimeter of the triangle, 24 plus 26 plus 10 equals 20, 40, 50, 60 again. So then I want to make sure that I'm really super careful, and I want to make sure that when I do my area, it's base and height of the triangle, and they have to form that right angle. So the area here is going to be 24 times 10 divided by 2. But this is one where I want to show you that I can, let's get this guy out of the way. Let's get this out of the way here. Okay. So, so I can go ahead and instead of halving it here, I've got 240 and I did not half that. Okay. So when I go to plug in, I've got perimeter times height. So 60 times that height, which we'll plug in here in a minute. And it's normally 2 times the base at this point, but because I didn't have it here, I'm just going to put this whole thing in as 240. And so I don't half it, but then I don't double it over here. Okay. And then I've got that lovely height, which is hanging out right here, and that's going to be 40. So again, I've got 6 times 4 is 24 with 2 zeros plus 240. So that's 2640, and that's inches squared. Okay, and so just really pretty quick. And some of these numbers are kind of getting bigger because of the numbers here that we have. Perimeter equals 12 plus 20 plus 16. So 10, 20, 30, 48. So that's going to be 48 centimeters. Okay. Area is going to be base times height again. So let's look at that right there. So here's the right angle right here. So it's these two sides right here. And so then that's going to be 12 times 16. So 12 times 16 and then divided by 2. But we're not going to divide by 2 because the formula doubles it. So 12 times 16 is 96 times 2, but 192. So area equals 192 centimeters squared. Okay, so then I've got my perimeter. Surface area equals 48 times the height plus 2 times the area, but I didn't half it, so I'm not going to double it. And my height then is going to be the section between the front and the back. What is that? 4. There it is. It's 4. Okay, so that's going to be 832, 16, 192 plus 192. Wow. And so 384 centimeters squared equals the surface area. And so that's how we go about it. And I know that's kind of long, but you know, it can, if once you get the hang of it, it can be easier than trying to figure out all the different sides and seeing if you missed any of those. So there you have it. I'll put this together and get this posted as soon as I can. Thanks.